Buyer's agency agreements. Do you know what they are and are you using them? Today, we're going to talk about what's a buyer's agency agreement, why they're so important, and how to present them to your clients. Twinsburg is a kind of a unique town. They have an event. It's kind of a weird thing to be famous for, but every year they have Twins Days, where it's the largest gathering of twins, triplets, quadruplets, etc. And that's their thing. That's what Twinsburg is known for. Unfortunately, they're not so much known for me living here, but we're a team. I run the 21 Mike team. We're currently the top team for Century 21 in the country. We are on pace to do around 500 transactions again this year, which I'm really proud of, guys, because I know you're out there. Most of you are agents listening in, and we're down. Overall transactions are down about 15% nationally average, and in our area as well. You see a lot of agents struggling. And so, hopefully you're figuring out how to bridge that gap, how to get your business back up, how to stay in the business. Well, that's one of the things we want to talk about today. Is I think buyer's agency agreements are going to become essential. In fact, they may be required at some point. I think they should be, just like a listing agreement. You have to sign an agreement to work with a seller. Why wouldn't you sign an agreement to work with your buyers? I know a lot of agents, a lot of you, and high five all of you who are doing it, are already using buyer's agreements. You'd be crazy to not use them. So I'm going to lead with that. Hopefully you guys hang on here and pick up what I'm putting down regarding buyer's agreements. If you need to get a hold of me, it's real simple, mike@21mike.com. Otherwise, I'm going to give you my thoughts on buyer's agreements. I also mentioned in the warm up here that there's this big class action lawsuit, several of them going on nationally, where sellers have gotten together and form these class action lawsuits challenging the big companies and NAR. So Anywhere, formerly Realogy, Keller, Remax, everybody has been named in these big lawsuits, and they're coming after the way we do business. They're essentially saying, you guys are breaking antitrust laws. You're misleading us and twisting our arms into paying these exorbitant commissions. And why the heck does a seller pay the buyer's commission? And that is the big reason for buyer's agreements becoming so important. Join us next week and we'll talk about all those lawsuits and what's going on. And we'll try to give you some thoughts on how to prepare yourselves for, well, maybe you don't want to work with them, but that's an aside. I would look them in the eye and say, look, I'm not looking to hold your feet to the fire and put you in a contract that neither one of us wants to be in. I will write right on this agreement that you can cancel it. I can cancel it. This agreement can be terminated if either one of us aren't happy with how things are going, and put it in writing. Okay, that is the home run on how to get someone to accept it. It's with listing agreements. It's the same kind of thing. They look at it and say, what? I've got to sign up with you for 6 months or a year, whatever it is. If someone's that uncomfortable with that kind of agreement, let them know that you will cancel it at any time. Now that's the end game. I don't lead with that. I want to explain my value. List a home for someone. They're promising, you're my listing agent. So why shouldn't buyers be the same? They are. It's our promise that we are going to work together. We're going to work together. And oh, by the way, here's how I get paid. And that's the second part of it. And I think this is where agents stumble. I'll ask agents, I'll say, hey, do you use buyer's agreements? And the worst answer in the world, even worse than no, is sometimes. Don't use them sometimes, because now what are you doing? You're treating people differently. Oh, well, people in a certain price range, you use them. If it's too low, then you're going to use a buyer's agreement. Or, and then that leads into, well, geez, are you only using a certain nationality or a certain, race or whatever, or people from a certain city? Sometimes is the worst answer in the world, guys. Do it or don't do it. And the right answer is do it. So what I usually say is, I say, look, that I've explained to you how I get paid. Most listings that are in the MLS are offering a compensation. They're offering a commission. And I have a minimum commission. And it can be a flat fee. It could be the greater of a flat fee or a percentage. And most of the time, that is paid by the seller currently. However, there are some instances where that compensation doesn't cover my minimum. And in those cases, you'd be responsible to make up the difference. Do you have any questions? And I might even give them an example. This is the fear part, right? So the fear part is that agents are like, oh, well, if I tell my clients that they might have to pay thousands of dollars to me, won't they just work with someone else? Well, I think the next best way to explain that, of course, is to talk about getting the seller to pay it anyway in the form of closing costs, in the form of a negotiation that happens when we're writing offers. Look, Mr. or Mrs. Client, I will do my best to make sure that the seller pays my commission, even if they're offering something lower, but there's still going to be those rare instances where they don't, and you will have to kick in a portion of it. But definitely letting them know that you're going to fight to try to get the seller to pay it regardless of what's offered in the MLS is another great strategy. And they're looking at $50,000 homes, $30,000 homes. And I tell them right up front, we have a minimum commission. After I've sold them on working with me and how knowledgeable we are, and my teammate is going to run around and look at houses and do all this stuff for you, can you understand that's a lot of work? And if the commission's only, say, $500, that's not enough to pay us for our time. So that's why we have a minimum commission of, say, $2,000. If we have, and I'll even sometimes say it like this, a cheapskate seller who's only offering $500, I probably shouldn't say that, but in a private moment, I might say that. If they're only offering a small flat fee, say $500, that means that you would have to kick in $1,500 to pay my minimum commission. Now, keep in mind, we can just reduce your offer by that amount, or we can ask the seller to pay some costs. Now, of course, they might say, well, doesn't that weaken my offer? Absolutely, guys. But the alternative is to not have that and then do all that work and get paid a $500 flat fee. I hear agents say, yeah, but Mike, what if they say, well, other agents haven't had a minimum? I hate to sound snotty, but then maybe they should go work with that other agent. Now, that's not what I say, but you have to ask yourself, is this a client you want to work with then? Do they value your time? Do they value your service? And most importantly, have you expressed your value to them? If they think you're just like every other agent out there, I don't blame them. But you have to prove to them, show them that what your value is, that you're making yourself accessible. And again, the whole transparency of explaining how we get paid. We don't get paid a salary, typically. We don't get paid hourly. We only get paid when a transaction closes. So I think it's important to express that value and understand the alternative. If you're afraid that they're going to say, well, then fine, I'm just going to go work with someone else, I think your answer is okay. As I appreciate y'all being here. Stay tuned next week. We're going to get a little bit more in the weeds with the lawsuits, explain to you guys what's going on, and then this will really kind of form in your head why these buyer's agreements are so important, especially given the changes that might happen. Don't forget, go to 21mike.com. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, there's a button right at the top. And of course, email me, Mike at 21mike.com.